Welcome to the NFL Show on the Gurley Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Use the promo code Truth100 to get a cash back bonus on your first deposit. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. A little under the weather, but otherwise good.
All right. Sounds like you're talking with your hand over your mouth.
No, I'm not. That's just my voice right now.
All right. The Dallas Cowboys win 37-18 last night. What was your take?
In the first half, or for most of the first half, I was a little bit worried because Dallas, they started slow like they always do. Right in that first drive, Dak threw the interception. Giants got off to a lead. And then that Blake Jarwin 42-yard touchdown was a big momentum shift. And Daniel Jones turns the ball over, and Dallas goes ahead and kicks that field goal and really never looked back since.
Yeah, and the Giants, luckily for the Cowboys, they played the Giants. I think they were inside the red zone, 4 times and came away with 3 field goals, which in the NFL, you're never going to win when you're settling for field goals against anybody.
Yeah, but they ultimately scored on a couple of big plays, so they did make up for it.
The Giants? Nah, you can't make up for kicking 3 field goals.
No, I'm talking. I thought you said Dallas.
No, the Giants. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that bailed Dallas out, was the fact that the Giants are completely inept as a football team.
How big? This was the best game by far this year for the Cowboys pass rush. How big is this Michael Bennett signing going to be? Because he's been with the team for a couple of days, maybe a week. He made an impact yesterday. That line, DeMarcus Lawrence, was not only sacking Daniel Jones, but he was all over Saquon Barkley in the backfield. If that defense can play the way it did yesterday, they played the Giants, but they also played really good against Philadelphia. If they can play like that, I think that's really going to help moving forward.
The problem is this. 4 of the 5 wins are against teams that are just bad, Anthony. And they struggled for 3 quarters in this game.
So were the Patriots.
We're not talking about the Patriots. We know the Patriots will be fine.
If you're going to use that narrative, you've got to use that narrative with everybody. And then look what the Patriots did against the Ravens, a superior team. Or at least a playoff team.
Yeah, they lost. They also played the Bills, who were a playoff team, and they won.
Barely. Couldn't get any offense going.
The Cowboys, outside of the Eagles, have beaten nobody. And let's face it, there's only one team coming out of the NFC East. So whichever team wins it will be the 4 seed. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing there. Now they play the Vikings next, which would be a big win. They go to Detroit, which is a tough game. At New England, they host Buffalo. So you've got an opportunity here to prove that they're as good as what you say they are. But I just don't think they are from what I've seen. And the thing is this, Bill Belichick will fix what's ever wrong with his team. Do you really have the confidence that Jason Garrett's going to fix what's wrong with the Cowboys?
Oh, no. But what is wrong with the Cowboys?
Jason Garrett? It's simple enough. It's Jason Garrett. I don't think this team is going to improve a whole lot. Ezekiel Elliott, they can run the ball. Ran for 139 yards. They got a great offensive line. They got a really good defense. I'll tell you this, Anthony. I think Jason Garrett's the problem because this team is 5-3. Because if Jason Garrett was a really good football coach, they have the talent to be 7-1 instead of 5-3.
No, they do. I agree with that.
Because they are more talented than the Eagles, but yet they're going to have to fight it out with the Eagles all year because the Eagles have a head coach and the Cowboys don't. And that's not to take a shot at the Cowboys, because I think what I just said was, I think they do have the talent to be a Super Bowl contender.
But do the Eagles have a head coach? He won the Super Bowl, but they're a 500 football team since.
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl, and he beat Bill Belichick, and he beat him because of his coaching.
Right, they're a 500 football team since.
Really?
And he hasn't beat
How
Jason
are they a
Garrett.
500 football
the
team
Cowboys
since? Wait a second. How are they a 500 football team since?
As far as I know, no.
Well, the year after the Super Bowl was last year, right? And they went 11-7. What's the record right now? 5-4?
11-7.
Yeah. Well, they made it to the divisional playoffs last year. Weren't they 10-6 or were they 9-7?
I'm checking this out now. So last year, let's see. Let's pull this up. They were 9-7 last year, and what are they now?
Yeah, so they were 10-8, and right now they're what? 5-4, 4-4.
Yeah, so they're barely over 500.
They're 3 games over 500, which puts you in the playoffs.
Okay.
So I think to sit there,
but you're talking about Doug Peterson like he's Bill Belichick.
No, I'm talking about Doug Peterson like he's one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL.
But he's not.
Yeah, he is.
He's not.
Who's better?
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid's won a Super Bowl? No, Andy Reid has taken a shitload of talent and never got to a Super Bowl except for once.
So you don't think Andy Reid's a better coach than Doug Peterson?
No way. Andy Reid is a greater offensive mind. But, I mean, you're the one that sits here. What's his signature win?
Who, Reid?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl.
And he lost to Belichick.
He's been to many championship games.
And lost most of them. All but one. And he loses to Belichick every time he plays him.
I would put Sean Payton in the top 5. Belichick's a lock for the top 5.
Yeah.
What about Pete Carroll?
No.
You don't put Pete Carroll in that conversation? He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. Gets his team to overperform its talent.
Who does? Pete Carroll?
Pete Carroll.
He doesn't get his team to overperform his talents. He's got Russell Wilson.
How do they keep making the playoffs?
He's got Russell Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, come on. That's like saying Mike Holmgren was a good coach.
But if Jason Garrett was Russell Wilson's coach, then what?
If Jason Garrett was
Russell
Wilson's
Wilson's Garrett
coach,
had Russell Wilson, then what?
Well, I don't think it matters who coaches Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is special. Aaron Rodgers is special. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was winning with McCarthy.
In the beginning.
Yeah, well,
they
still
fell
was
off
winning.
the last couple of years.
Yeah, but that's because he was hurt. When he was hurt, they lost. And I think I think you lose a little credibility when you don't mention John Harbaugh. Because to me, that's the guy that's number 2.
I wasn't finished yet. I was going through.
Yeah, but John Harbaugh should be the first guy that comes up after Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd put him up there.
Yeah, I mean, because the guy wins, no matter who his quarterback is. And the thing is, John Harbaugh wins running different kinds of offenses, different kinds of defenses. You know, so...
And you're forgetting about Zach Taylor.
Yeah, Opie Taylor. he doesn't have a signature win yet. Hell, he doesn't have a win yet. Yeah.
Never mind a signature win.
So the sad thing is this. We're in an NFL where when we're naming the best coaches, you struggle to get past 5.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, you look at the AFC North.
Can you put Sean McVay in that conversation?
How could you put him in that conversation?
I said, can you? I don't know.
No, he sucks, and he's going to prove it. He'll be out of a job in a couple of years. I mean, the Rams have gone downhill since last year. Everybody's figured out what he's doing. Opie Taylor's trying to do what he was doing, and it's been figured out. So if Sean McVay's a good coach, he'll fix it within the next year. If not, he was just going to be the hot commodity at one point in the NFL who disappeared. But if you look at the AFC North, and we were going to talk about this anyway, so let's just go team by team and look at the coaches. Freddie Kitchens at Cleveland. I think he should be fired when this year's over.
He should have been fired a couple games ago.
He should have never been hired. Zach Taylor, or as I like to say, Opie, should have never been hired. Mike Tomlin I think Mike Tomlin has done a great job with these guys. I don't think necessarily he is a great X's and O's coach, but his teams play hard for him.
He's a motivator.
Yeah, he's a motivating guy. His team's playing hard. Harbaugh's a stud. You go to the AFC South. I think Frank Reich could be a good coach. I think Bill O'Brien's a good coach because until he got Deshaun Watson, he was making the playoffs with a lot less of Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and it seems like
Yeah,
his
he made
best
it with
players.
Hoyer and Whedon.
Yeah, and it seems like his best players are always hurt. Jacksonville, I think that dude is about to be fired. Doug Marrone.
Doug Marrone?
Yeah, he's horrible. I mean, that was a dude that bailed on Buffalo after he took him to a 9-7 record. I'm not a big fan there. Who else? Where are we at? The AFC South. Frank Reich, I think, could be good. I don't think we really know for sure yet, but I think he's trending as a good coach. The Tennessee Titans, Mike Vrabel, I think he's an average coach. I don't think he's good or bad yet. I don't think we've really had time to prove it.
Yeah, I don't think we know because of their quarterback situation.
Yeah, you look at the AFC West, the Chargers. I actually like Anthony Lynn.
I like Anthony Lynn too, but is he a head coach or is he a better coordinator?
I think we'll find that out, if you know what I mean. And they are set up, if they beat the Raiders, to make a run at the playoffs again. You look at the Raiders, Gruden, not a huge fan. I don't think he's really good or bad. So, Denver, Vic Fangio.
I think Gruden's a character.
Yeah, he's a personality. And Andy Reid, I think he's a good coach. I think he's top 5, top 10. But he needs to take all this talent and win a Super Bowl. Because I think what we've seen is now, defensively, they're not that bad now. Offensively, they're as good or better than almost anybody. So he needs to get it done this year. You got a New England team that has a hard time stopping a run. If they could continue to run a ball like they did the last game or two, they could win it. But we all know AFC Championship game time, he's going to throw the ball with Patrick Mahomes 50 times.
What is Andy Reid's legacy? I know if he wins a Super Bowl, it changes everything. But if he never wins a Super Bowl, is he going to be labeled as like Schottenheimer 2.0?
Well, I didn't hear the end of your question because it kind of cut out. Or your
is Andy Reid going to be labeled Marty Schottenheimer 2.0 if he never wins a Super Bowl?
I think Marty Schottenheimer is a better coach. Because the difference
but
is
you understand the comparison.
Yeah, I do. But like Andy Reid right now, I think has the best team, and he's not winning. I don't think there was ever a time where Schottenheimer had the best team unless it was that Chargers team in, 07 or 08. And that wasn't his fault. That was a player that intercepts a pass, and if he takes a knee, the game's over, and he probably wins the Super Bowl that year. Am I missing anybody in the West? Vic Fangio, I think the jury's still out, but I'm trending towards no. So really, right there, we've got 5 or 6 guys in the entire AFC that we think are average or above average.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about the AFC East. It's Belichick. Yeah. I actually like Sean McDermott.
Yeah, I like Sean McDermott. To me, Sean McDermott's a little bit like Mike Tomlin, only a little quieter when he does it. Yes. They play really hard. I like Brian Flores. I just don't think we're ever going to find out how good he is while he's in Miami because that front office is a mess. But that is a team, unlike the Cincinnati Bengals and Opie Taylor, that seems to fight their ass off and plays better each week. And Adam Gase sucks. He should be fired. He never should have been hired. Or do you like Adam Gase? You there? Did we lose Anthony?
No, I'm here.
Oh,
what do you think? Adam Gase is still living off those Denver years.
You know, and that one time he made the playoffs in Miami when they didn't beat one single team with a better than 500 record. So we look at the NFC West. I think the jury's still out on Shanahan, but I think that just because of that atrocious Super Bowl that he called in the fourth quarter. But I think that he's a good football coach. The question is, how good is he?
I might put Shanahan over McVay right now.
Oh, no doubt. I would put most people over McVay. If we go to McVay, I just think that he was just what's new and what's hot at the moment last year. That team has not gotten better. I think they've got issues on the offensive line. I think they've got issues running the ball, and I don't think Jared Goff's that good, Anthony.
Well, we're going to see what Jared Goff is.
Yeah, we will, and we're going to see it real quick in the next few weeks. Seattle, Pete Carroll, I'll give him, he's a good coach. I'm not overly impressed, but if he could take this team, I think this, if he could all of a sudden get this team to a championship game or a Super Bowl again, then it's not just Russell Wilson that did it, if that makes any sense, because Russell Wilson's so good, he's going to get you 9 or 10 wins. It's whether you can get a couple extra wins through other means, and that other means has got to be coaching, Anthony.
Yeah, and this is the worst defense that Seattle's put on the field in a long time. They've become an offensive team, and I actually like the weapons. DK Metcalf's breaking out, Tyler Lockett's a legit wide receiver one, and now you add Josh Gordon, where Josh Gordon, he had to be the number 2 in New England, and he's not even a number 2 anymore. But if Josh Gordon is your number 3 receiver with Russell Wilson as your quarterback, I think the Seattle team can make a deep run.
Yeah, they can score points, but the lack of a defense is going to hurt them.
Clowney to play.
Yeah, and they can run the ball with Chris Carson. That's the big thing there. So this is a team that – where do they play the 49ers at Monday night? Is that at San Francisco?
I can check.
Because no matter where it's at, to have a chance to win this division and make a deep run, they've got to beat the 49ers on Monday night.
But they play them twice, so.
Yeah, but they're already a couple games behind them. You lose to them again.
They're in San Francisco.
Yeah, so you lose this game to them, then all of a sudden you're 3 games behind, and you've only got one game left.
The 49ers going to go. I mean, what's in their future?
What do you mean?
Because they're undefeated right now, but I mean, are they going to keep this run going?
Do you mean this year or past?
I mean, they have Seattle, then they have the Cardinals again, which is going to be a tough game. Green Bay, Baltimore, the Saints, the Falcons. That's going to be an easy game. The Rams, then the Seahawks. That is a tough stretch, especially when you talk about Green Bay, Baltimore, Saints.
Well, the one thing about Green Bay and Baltimore is you never know which team you're going to get. And they play Green Bay at home. I think the 49ers have too much defense for them. I think that pass rush will overrun them. And I also think this. I think the same thing. I think they lose 2 games. I think they lose to the Saints and maybe at the Seahawks at the end of the year because they won't need to win. I think this is a 13-3, 14-2 team. They're going to have home field advantage all the way through.
And then they'll lose to Dallas in the postseason.
Yeah, because they're going to lose to Dallas because Dallas has so much better talent than them.
They have intangible.
They don't have
the best
anything.
Running back in the game.
No, they don't have the best running back in the game. Stop that shit. I mean, nobody buys that. Christian McCaffrey's the best running back in the game.
How many times did you hear Booger McFarland last night refer to Zeke as the best running back in the game?
To tell you the truth, a grown man that calls himself Booger, I usually don't pay any attention to. Fair enough.
That's a guy, talk about, he needs to learn adjectives.
Do you think he just got the job because his name's Booger?
Possibly.
Wasn't there a guy named Booger in Revenge of the Nerds? And do you think he was called Booger because when he was younger he ate his own boogers?
Possibly. I wouldn't.
I would think that's what it is. Booger-eating McFarland's what they ought to call him.
I think he wanted to go chase down that cat and eat it last night.
He probably did. So I would make an Asian joke here, but that would be politically incorrect, so I'm not going to. All right, Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals. I think that he has the perfect offense for the quarterback he's got. I don't know if he's a good head coach, but I think with the talent he has on offense, I just don't see him succeeding because I think this 49er team is going to be really good for a long time. I think Seattle is going to be because of Russell Wilson. So they're going to always have those two looking over them. So I think eventually he gets fired, and maybe it's not his fault. Maybe he's just not good enough to hang with those two teams.
I think I don't know if they're going to blow him out in a year or two. I think they're going to give him the full
Oh, I think they will too, but
duration of
my
Kyler
my
Murray's
worry
rookie
for him
deal.
is this 49ers team is pretty young. They're going to be around for a while, and Russell Wilson's not real old. So if he continuously is going 6-10 to 9-7 for the next 3 or 4 years, where do they then just make a change to try to catch up to those other two teams?
The Cardinals are young in their own right. I mean, look at how many players are in their first or second year starting on
They
that
don't
team.
have the kind of talent that the 49ers have, though.
They're, I don't know. I think the 49ers, they definitely have a superior line. I think I would give the edge moving forward to the Cardinals at receiver. I think they're both pretty even at running back when you consider everything the 49ers have. And then you have David Johnson and Chase Edmonds and now Kenyon Drake. On the other, I mean, I think they're an evenly matched team with the 49ers. They have a better defense right now.
Yeah, but the other thing you've got, the big difference here is the organization and how it's run in the front office. I think that the 49ers and their wide receiver issues, number one, I think they got better receivers now. Emmanuel Sanders, I think, was a
Yeah,
huge
he
add.
improved that whole unit.
But the other thing is, with Garoppolo there, with having a great season this year, I mean, if you've got a choice and you're a free agent, do you want to go to San Francisco where they may overpay you a little bit, or do you want to go down with the Bidwells in Arizona?
Yeah, you're right.
All right, next up, let's go to the NFC North, where Detroit, Matt Patricia. I think he's got another year after this, but he's got pieces he still needs there. This team is better, and I think he deserves another year, but I'm not completely sold on Patricia.
No, and the biggest issue they have, they can't run the ball even when they had Kerryon Johnson. He was right around 3 yards a carry. They need an offensive line. I think
Yeah.
that is their biggest issue on the team.
All right, then we go to the Green Bay Packers. LaFleur is safe for now, as long as he doesn't piss off Aaron Rodgers. What about the Bears? Because I think we all agree that Ryan Pace is the biggest problem there. But Matt Nagy, I mean, is it a good or a bad thing that Matt Nagy in his first year is 11-5 and almost goes to the divisional playoffs? Or is it a bad thing because now everybody expects more?
Um, I think, yes, they had high expectations, but I think it's a wash with Nagy because he didn't choose Mitchell Trubisky. He was put into this situation. So I put it more on the general manager, Ryan Pace. And I think that if you let Nagy go get a quarterback this offseason, which means that, you got to let Mitchell Trubisky go or make him a backup. I mean, you can still hold on to him. He's on his rookie deal. You don't owe him anything. And you can go bring another guy in, and then we'll see what Matt Nagy's made of. But that's a talented defense that's being wasted because the offense, stalled drives, turnovers, and bad situations. Any good defense is eventually going to break.
Andy Dalton.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
I think Andy Dalton's the perfect fit there. I'm not saying that Andy Dalton's a top 5 quarterback, but with the talent there, they could win. And Matt Nagy is the one that wanted to let Jordan Howard go because he wanted to go with Montgomery because Montgomery fit the offense he wanted to run better. So that one is his fault. And I still think that was a huge mistake.
But even with Jordan Howard, with the way Mitchell Trubisky has played, who knows if there would be much difference right now.
Well, I think Jordan Howard is a different type of runner who's going to get positive yardage, and maybe Trubisky instead. There's a lot of 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 10s there that maybe if you got Howard or 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4s, which are a hell of a lot easier plays to make. And the other thing is this. Defenses are on to him. They're not letting him take off running with the ball now. They're forcing him to stay in the pocket. They're forcing him to throw, and he just can't get that done. The Minnesota Vikings, Mike Zimmer. I bring this up because this is a team that seems loaded and ready to win. They have not won. They've won one playoff game, or have they won a playoff game under Zimmer there?
The Minnesota Miracle, yes, Diggs.
Yeah, that's right. So, is Zimmer in trouble if they don't make the playoffs? Because there was rumblings that he could be in trouble after last year.
Unfairly, yes.
I don't know if it's unfairly, though. He's been there for a while, and they signed him Kirk Cousins, and they got him
look,
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, and Case Keenum has brought that team farther than Kirk Cousins.
Well, actually, we probably ought to let Cousins have the rest of the season. Last year, the Vikings' problem was this, though. They lost talent. The offensive line was really bad. And my big worry for them is watching Kansas City against Minnesota. I'm not so much impressed with Kansas City's pass rush. It just worries me more about Minnesota's offensive line because I don't think the Chiefs' pass rush is as good as what they looked. But I think that Vikings' offensive line is as bad as what they looked.
Oh, they're going to have their hands full Sunday night against my Cowboys.
Yeah.
Primetime game, signature win opportunity for Kirk Cousins
no, it's
again.
not. It's not a signature win
in
opportunity.
primetime.
It's not a signature win to beat Dallas, a barely above 500 Dallas team. Oh, yeah, I know. It's tough to win in Dallas. Ask Green Bay. Come on, your team's 5-3. It's not a signature win if he beats you. If he beats you, you'll be 5-4. So let's go to the.
It's a signature win because then he can possibly gain a game on the Packers.
That doesn't make it a signature win. That's just a big regular season win.
Right.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
You don't have any signature wins.
He doesn't.
These are signature wins.
He's never won a primetime game.
I think he's like 4-10, 5-10, or something like that.
So he has won 4 or 5.
Right.
All right, whatever. Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett, got to be fired. Agreed?
Yeah, barring a Super Bowl.
Even with a Super Bowl, they should fire him. He sucks. He's given way too long a rope to hang himself here.
Kirk Cousins this is 2018. Minnesota Vikings quarterback in his career, and this is December of 18, is 4-24 against winning teams, and at that time 5-13 on primetime.
So he's won multiple games in this situation.
4-24 against winning teams, and this was it improved a little bit. He's won a couple this year. One primetime game.
Yeah. So he has won 4 or 5. Okay, how about this? Since we're going to rip on that, what's Dak Prescott's record against winning teams?
Dak Prescott has the second most wins since coming into the league, only behind Tom Brady.
That's not what I asked you. So this is the thing. Since taking over, he's 36-20, right? That was at the start of October. Right? But when you dig deeper into those numbers, there is a disturbing trend in his career as a starter against teams with winning records. He is 10-16 all time against teams with winning records.
Better than 5-24.
He's also rolling with a hell of a lot better team. And if he had intangibles the way you said he did, wouldn't those intangibles show themselves against teams with losing records or winning records?
But can those intangibles overcome Jason Garrett?
No. They can't. Because nobody has that good of intangibles. But the point is this. He has a losing record against teams with winning records. I mean, right now, he is sitting at I'm sorry, he's like 10-17. He's really good against bad teams, though, as long as it's not the New York Jets.
The Jets just have Dallas's number.
Well, you know what? I don't know how you can hold your head up high as a Cowboys fan if you're going to use a sentence like that. That's like saying the Bengals have my team's number. The Jets should not have anybody's number.
No, but I mean, in the past, I think going back the past 4 matchups, the Jets are like 3-1 against Dallas, maybe even 4-0.
So what you're telling me is
they play each other every 4 years.
The Jets own Dak Prescott. He's never beaten the Jets, has he?
Okay. Yeah, no, not yet.
Never beat the Jets. All right, I just want to get that straight. Has Kirk Cousins ever beat the Jets?
I mean, Mark Sanchez beat Tom Brady.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
How many times did Mark Sanchez lose to Tom Brady?
Probably a lot.
So Mark Sanchez had a signature win. What good does that do him? Nothing, because he's still not in the NFL less than a decade later.
Well, isn't he a coach?
I don't know what he is. He's Mark Sanchez. He doesn't have to do anything. He made enough money. The Giants, they got to fire that dude, don't they?
Shermer, yeah.
And he just looks like a moron. And that's another one who got the job because he's related to Fritz Shermer, who was one of the greatest line coaches in NFL history. That's how he got his job. The Eagles, Doug Peterson safe because Jason Garrett's there, which means he'll continue to get to win games. Even though he can't beat Dallas, he beats everybody else and wins the Super Bowl. The Redskins, can Callahan keep this job?
I mean, they're playing tough for him, for what it's worth.
Yeah, but don't you think Daniel Snyder's a guy who's going to go try to throw a bunch of money at somebody and try to trick them into coming to him?
I think he's going to go try to bring in a young hotshot offensive guy.
Okay. Next, we get the NFC South. Ron Rivera. Is he safe, or does he have to make the playoffs to be safe?
I think he's getting stale.
I think he's been stale for a year or two. I think it's time for him to go. Not that he's a bad coach, but I just think sometimes you overstay your welcome somewhere, and I think that is what happened here. And if you're going to, how about this? If you're going to stay with Cam Newton, maybe keep Rivera. But if you're going to go with Kyle Allen, maybe bring in a different coach for him.
I mean, would you give Norv another shot or no?
No. Why would I ever give Norv a shot? Norv is a great offensive coordinator that has proven he's not a very good head coach. But he is a great offensive coordinator. Plus, Norv looks way too much like Al Gore to me.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I don't want to look at somebody that looks like Al Gore. I would assume Sean Payton's safe until the Cowboys' job opens up.
I mean, they gave him an extension.
Yeah. So your Cowboys are going to have to find somebody else. Let's see. Eagles, Peterson's safe. We went through that. NFC South. Well, I think it's pretty safe to say Dan Quinn's done.
Yes.
Who am I missing? There's one more team in there. Oh, Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians is safe. Agreed?
Yes.
So would you say that it's safe to say that less than half of the coaches we approve of?
It is less than half, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot less than half. There's usually like one a division, maybe two. But there was an article in The Athletic today citing the NFL league sources that Monday night that the league has discussed the possibility of the Chargers moving to London. Now, there was a writer named Vincent Bonsignor, whatever the hell his name is, who writes that the team would at least listen if the NFL approached them about London as possible options. Bonsignor adds that NFL owners amid tepid embracement of the Chargers in L.A. would provide the necessary support for a location to London if the Chargers pursue it. If the Chargers were to move, they would likely play in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm not kidding. That is really what they call a soccer team. That's why soccer is pretty much irrelevant. What's your take here? Do you think this is serious that the NFL could move the Chargers to London?
I think Goodell wants a team in London. I think it's something he's been pushing for. It doesn't surprise me that the Chargers are in the mix because, Dean Spanos already moved the team out of San Diego after all those years, and they're not getting the reception that they thought they would get in Los Angeles. So, yeah, I think it would be a big money grab for Dean Spanos to travel to London with this team. I think it could be, the positive from it. There are teams like the Cowboys. I don't think they've been to London yet. A lot of these owners don't want to lose a home game.
I thought the Cowboys had. I thought there was only the Packers were the only team that hadn't been there.
See, I didn't think.
I don't remember the Cowboys being there either, but I know 2 weeks ago when the Bengals played there, I remember them saying the only NFL team that hadn't been there was the Packers.
Oh.
They could be wrong because this, Booger does games on Monday nights, so it's not like they're infallible.
Only three. This is the Seahawks, Eagles. Oh, so maybe Dallas has been there.
You think maybe they're counting when Dallas was there in the late 80s? You remember when they used to do like preseason games in London. And I think like the first or second preseason game ever played, Dallas did play there. But I don't remember recently Dallas playing there. I could be wrong.
No, neither do I. But that's the big thing. A lot of these teams, they don't want to lose that home game. So by putting the Chargers there, it gives you the opportunity to have every team travel. None of the owners are losing anything by giving up the concessions in the home game. But then on the other hand, if you're a player on the West Coast, you really want to travel to London?
Well, do you want to travel to London if you're a player from anywhere? I mean, how do you do this to make it fair? I mean, we're supposed to worry about player safety, but if you're playing a game on Sunday in London and got to fly all the way back, how do they do this? Because
they give them the bye week after?
Yeah, but if you're playing 16 games there, can you give a bye week to each team after they go there? And do you give the bye week the week before or the week after? Because the other thing is, if I'm playing on Sunday and then all of a sudden I got to be in London to play on Sunday the next week, I mean, there's not much time to acclimatize yourself to the time change or the weather or anything else.
I mean, they're doing it now, and they're adding more games every year.
They're doing it, but they're not doing it on a pace where, it's a lot easier right now to give 4 teams a bye week after the week. I don't know. It may be easy. Maybe they can set this up so every team that plays them will get a bye week right after. But the problem is there's no bye week right before. And it just seems like that if player safety is a big deal, that they wouldn't do this. The Cowboys played the Jaguars in London.
Yes, 2014.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I mean, they have the Mexico games. I think if you want to keep the international series going, that's fine, but I don't know about a permanent move.
So once again, do you think they're serious about it, or do you think
Yes.
they're just saying this?
I think Roger Goodell wants a team in London. I just don't know how you can make it work logistically.
I don't either. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, even with a bye week after, you don't have a bye week before. And how many people, and this is not a shot at our friends across the pond, and of course, we have a new podcast out today called Across the Pond that came out with this story before The Athletic I wanted to bring up because they got me to show late last night. And there are a couple guys that are NFL fans in the UK talking about this, and they actually had on the overseas ambassador for the Jacksonville Jaguars talking about the possibility of this move. So if you get a chance, go on to GurleyTruth.com, listen to Across the Pond, which we'll discuss this more in depth. I think it was a 40-minute interview with the ambassador for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, I mean, this is just a money grab by Roger Goodell, so I would say it's probably serious also. Unfortunately. But, I mean, can you get players? I mean, do you have to pay players more to get them to go to London?
No, they're under contract.
No, I mean on the team. If you're signing a free agent, do you have to pay?
That's a good question.
How many times do you have to pay taxes over there, or does it keep you from having to pay the taxes over here? But I think the tax rate.
It depends on where you claim residency, I guess.
Yeah, but even like right now, there's states if you play in, like if you're a Bengal and you go to Colorado, you're paying state tax for that game in Colorado and Cincinnati or Ohio, I mean. Because I know I've talked to numerous players before that tell me, if I'm making $3 million a year, it means I'm really bringing home about 1.2 to 1.5 because of all the taxes we get hit with.
Right.
So, I think it's an interesting concept. This is called the National Football League, though, not the International Football League.
Wasn't there an NFL Europe in like 1990?
There was a NFL Europe, which started right around 1990. I think it was 1991. And it was because they played a World Bowl. but it was basically started as a feeder league for the NFL, where they started off with mainly teams in this country. It had ended up morphing into a world league because I think like half the teams were over here. You had teams from Barcelona and London because I think Barcelona and London played in the first World Bowl, and I think that was in 1991. It was backed by the NFL, and I think they founded it in the late 80s to serve as type of a spring league. And 7 of the 10 teams when it started out, I think, were based in North America, and the other 3 were in Europe. That format lasted only like 2 seasons because outside of a few, I mean, there was a team in New York which failed quickly because New Yorkers aren't going to subsidize a minor league football team outside of the Jets, who beat the Cowboys, by the way. And I think it lasted like 2 or 3 years. And they folded. And they came back as the WLAF, WLAF, which was a bad acronym for something like this. But I think they came back in the mid-90s with 6 teams, and all those teams were in Europe. And in 1998, they branded it the NFL Europe League, I think because they were tired of people calling it the WLAF. And you had a lot of guys, though. Like, I think Kurt Warner played over there. John Kitna played over there. So there was a lot of guys who played there who ended up playing in the NFL later on. But the problem was this. They lost a crap load of money, the NFL did, running this league, which I think didn't it fold like 2005 or 2006, somewhere around there?
2007.
2007? Yeah, there was a lot of good players, but they weren't drawing huge crowds at most places. And I think the other thing people need to consider is this. Is the NFL really that big in London? I mean, it's one thing to play 3 or 4 games there a year and sell the place out.
Yeah, and it's like a spectacle. It's an event.
Yeah. I mean, I'll compare it to this. The Buffalo Bills used to, still sometimes do, they'll play a preseason game in Toronto. Now, the CFL, Canadian Football League, already has teams. All right, and they have a huge following. And the problem the Bills have had is they have to move all the people that bought tickets to the lower bowl, or they have to give away tickets to get people in there because most of the Canadian people would rather watch the CFL. The NFL doesn't mean as much to them, at least with a large percentage of that audience. So I don't know. If you're putting the Chargers there 16 games a year, and the other thing is this, logistically, we talked about giving teams a bye week after they play there. But what about the Chargers or the Jaguars or whoever's there? If they have to go play an away game, you can't give them a bye week every week that they had to come to the States to play.
No.
So it's an unfair advantage. And, you know, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and the Philadelphia Eagles, I know this really can't happen, but it's just for instance, but say the Eagles are going to play the Eagles play the Chargers. And the Eagles host the Chargers. But then the Cowboys have to go to LA to play or to London to play the Chargers. Is that fair?
No, it's not.
And maybe the Cowboys go to London, you know, they come back even though they get a bye week and they lose their next game to a crappy team, while the Eagles, who stayed at home, beat a team, and you've just changed the way the NFL season can turn out just because you're worried about grabbing more money. And I think the NFL is an American sport. And like I said, I know there's fans in Europe. I know there's fans in London. But I know a lot of people in London because we get 10% of our listeners from that area, mainly because of boxing and a little bit of soccer, but mainly boxing. And most of them tell me if a team moves over here for a year or two, it'll do great. And if they're not winning, it's just going to be like the United States and nobody's showing up.
It's not going to go well.
No. And right now, this is an easy way out for the NFL because the NFL screwed up by combining the Rams and that new stadium and the Chargers and Alex Spanos. And Alex Spanos is a despicable human being anyways. And Alex Spanos is the reason why the people in San Diego would not vote for a new stadium, because the guy is a corrupt asshole. And what they did is they hightailed it, got out of there. They gave Spanos all these relocation expenses to go to L.A. And now they realize that they've screwed this up. And no matter what the Chargers do, they're always going to be second fiddle to the Rams. And I hate to tell people this, but the Rams, one bad season, and that new $4 billion stadium is going to be about half full for them also, because they're not the Dodgers or the Lakers. And the Dodgers or the Lakers are the two big brands in L.A. It's not the Rams. I mean, I remember growing up in the 70s, the Rams were a playoff team every year. But when they would play at the Memorial Coliseum against the Cowboys in the 78 championship game, they blacked out 20,000 seats so they could sell it out. Because go ahead.
Los Angeles is a basketball town.
It's baseball. I think it's Dodgers, Lakers, go to the beach. You know, the LA Kings were huge when Wayne Gretzky was there. They're huge when they're winning. The Rams will be big when they're winning. But I remember 1983, the LA Raiders, the only game that they sold out that entire year was the AFC Championship game. Other than that, they averaged 20,000 empty seats per game. There's a lot of stuff to do in LA other than go to a football game in January. Hell, you can go to the beach in January. So
go visit Steve Risley.
Yeah, because it's 85 and sunny there, but he misses thunderstorms. So, I mean, I just think this, in the end, at first it may seem like a good idea, but the other thing is, doesn't the NFLPA have to approve something like this?
You would think.
So, for the NFLPA to approve something like this, the NFL is going to have to give up something.
I think the only way this works is if you put expansion teams, and I don't know if you can add, you know, with the way the NFL, with the divisions and everything else, you can't add 2 more teams.
Yeah, and really, you would have to add probably 3 more teams with the Chargers, or 4 teams, so you could come up with an entire division over there.
Yeah, and at that point, you just make it NFL Europe again.
And how about this? And NFL Europe failed, remember? And that was,
but you know in its defense, the NFL today is a whole different animal, especially with fantasy football, to where if they put an NFL Europe there now, I think it'll be more successful.
No, the NFL Europe would never be successful. If you had NFL teams in the NFL, that might be. But the NFL Europe thing still wouldn't work, because I don't think there's that many Brits that want to play fantasy football. I think they would rather get drunk and throw darts.
Listen, I'm in the fantasy football business, and there's a lot. And it's growing every year.
Yeah, but we're talking about NFL Europe. NFL Europe was basically a minor league.
Right, yeah, I get it.
You know, you're not playing fantasy football for the Arena Football League. Or how much do you know about fantasy football in the CFL? I'm sure they have it.
They have it, but I don't touch it.
But it's a small scale because it's a smaller country with 10 million people. So I think if the NFL wants to do this, I think the NFLPA should jump on this. And what they ought to do is this. They ought to say, yeah, you can put a team there. But if you put a team there, in the CBA, you have to write it in so any player with 3 years or more service gets lifetime health care for free.
Don't they get that now?
And they do for the guys now, but let me get to where I'm going. Anybody before 1994 gets free health care for the rest of their lives also. Because that's the problem. The guys that played in the 60s and 70s don't get that. Yes. Because the players that currently play, just like the players in the 70s, didn't think about this in the future. You know, because you think you're Superman, you think you can play forever and that nothing bad's ever going to happen to you. But, I mean, why not write that in? Give anybody that's ever played free health care for life, and then we'll go play in London. Because to me, if I'm a player that's 25 today, even though I don't want to go there, if you go talk to a Jim LeClaire, who was a great Cincinnati Bengal linebacker, number 55, who died yesterday. He had dementia for the last 6 years, passed away yesterday, was a great football player and even a greater man. And somebody like that shouldn't leave huge bills for his family because he's one of those guys that helped build this league. They should be taken care of. So if you're going to talk about taking care of the players, take care of the players. And then maybe the players will give you something you want. But we all know in the end, the NFL will just squeeze the players by the neck until they get what they want anyways.
What are you... We've talked about this before. What are the chances of a strike with the new CBA?
I don't know that there's any chance because the NFLPA is usually in the NFL's pocket anyways. And the NFL, unlike Major League Baseball, always folds. The players do. Because there's so much money in it. And the NFLPA has had guys like Marvin Miller who, basically was not afraid to hold out. And he got what he wanted, and that's why the MLB, the players are much better taken care of. And I'd say the odds are we don't have a work stoppage in 2021. Because I don't think in the end, and you can go back and if you type in a search bar for thegruelingtruth.com, go in the search bar on the website, type in Jerry Ball, and you can listen to what happened in 1994. And Jerry Ball was in those meetings where the NFLPA basically sold out the players in those meetings. And if you go listen to Jerry Ball's interview, it'll blow your mind the way the NFLPA was basically, especially back when it was Gene Upshaw, basically did whatever the NFL told him to do. Because they were paying Gene Upshaw off, put money in his pocket to get him to sell out the players. So maybe DeMaurice Smith is different, but I doubt it. So they have a weak union, put it like that. And if we've seen it, the owners are not afraid to go ahead and just dress up other people as football players and let it go. It didn't work out that well for
They made
them.
a movie about it, too.
Well, the Replacements?
Yep.
That was a good movie, too. And it was based on the 87 strike. But if you remember, in 1987, like in Denver, they were still drawing 40,000 people to watch a replacement team.
The Scabs.
Which is bullcrap. I hate when they call them scabs. But what the hell? There was actually some guys like Gary Plummer, who was a damn good linebacker for the Chargers, that were discovered during that strike season. And really, that strike season, 1987...
Didn't Plummer play for San Francisco, too?
Yeah, he played on the 94 Super Bowl championship
CTE.
team. Huh?
He's somebody who's dealing with CTE symptoms, no?
Dude, almost all of them are. And that's why something needs to be done about it. But instead of worrying about spending money there, they're going to go spend money on London to make player safety even less of a concern for them. So, but that 87 strike season, I got a bunch of those games on video. They're cool to watch. I remember the Bengals had a prison guard playing right guard. And I'm pretty sure they could bring him back right now and he'd be better than what they got. Maybe the Bengals ought to just have a strike team now. But yeah, if you look at that strike season, that 4-game strike where they counted those games had a direct correlation on who went to the Super Bowl that year. The Minnesota Vikings finished that season at 8-7, and that's the year they went and beat a really, really good 12-3 Saints team in New Orleans, 44-10. Their strike team was not very good. If their regular team plays through that, there's a chance that they win their division. And there's a really good chance that they're hosting the Washington Redskins in that championship game instead of going to Washington. Because Washington, Joe Gibbs him and Bobby Beathard put together a really good strike team that I think went 3-0. And that was the difference in their records that year. And the Vikings went to Washington, lost 10-7. Darren Nelson dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. Washington goes to the Super Bowl, beats the crap out of Denver, and that's history. But Minnesota, I think, was the best team that year. Minnesota went to San Francisco after beating a 12-3 New Orleans team and beat the 13-2 49ers. 13-2 49ers. Anthony Carter played the greatest game I've ever seen a wide receiver play in a playoff game. He had like 13 catches for like 280 or 290 yards. But I know way too much about the 1987 season. I know that.
But that's good. That's okay. I enjoy listening to your stories about that because I'm a football. I like to think myself as like a football historian, but there's so much I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a lot better than Keanu Reeves.
The old stories.
It's a lot better than Keanu Reeves doing it. But well, see, I had a bad experience with the '87 season because that was the year the Bengals went to hell. That's the game. That's the year where like. The second game of the season, the Bengals are playing the Niners with 6 seconds left. They're up 26-20, and all they had to do was run the clock out. For some reason, Sam Weiss ran James Brooks into the middle on 4th and 6 at our own 40-yard line. They tackle him with 2 seconds left, and then they come out, and the 49ers put trips to the left, put Jerry Rice down by himself on the other side. And the Bengals covered Jerry Rice with Eric Thomas, who was just a rookie. Now, Eric Thomas would end up being a Pro Bowler the next year when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. But they had a rookie one-on-one with Jerry Rice, while the Bengals had 5 guys covering the trips. They throw the ball to Rice. The Bengals lose, makes them 1-1, and it just kind of steamrolled from there because Boomer Esiason lays down in front of the bus when the bus with the scab players is going. They're getting in fights with scab players, and the Bengals ended up 4-11. And it's really cool because I've talked to a lot of guys on that 87 team that also played on the 88 team. And just to hear what went on behind the scenes in Cincinnati in that 87 strike season makes what happened in 1988 even more unbelievable because Sam Weiss had lost that complete team in 1987. You know, and by 1988, he had them all back. And very rarely does a team lose the belief of his players. And very rarely does he recover from that. But if you talk to Sam Weiss, you'll know why, because he's a great guy.
Can you do the Icky Shuffle?
I can do the Icky Shuffle.
Have you done it?
I have done the Icky. And dude, in 1988, everybody was. Paul Brown did the Icky Shuffle in 1988.
And Icky is still at the games, right?
Icky still sometimes goes to the games. When I coached the Northern Kentucky River Monsters, the arena football team, Icky showed up to all the games. Because the sad part about Icky is he had a son named Javante. And Javante had asthma. And they didn't know it. And he was at a practice, had an asthma attack for the first time ever, and died on the field when he was like a junior or a senior in high school. So Icky came to all the River Monster games and would like sell signed jerseys, stuff like that, because he started a Javante Woods Foundation to help kids that had serious cases with asthma. But Icky Woods is an outstanding dude. I mean, and it's a shame because if you watch Icky Woods in 1988, which was the only year he was healthy, that dude was a beast. I mean, that was a guy that when him and James Brooks were in the backfield at the same time, a lot of times, Icky Woods was so quick and had such great feet that he was the tailback and James Brooks was the fullback. And most people don't realize that. But if you watch like the 88 championship game, there's a lot of times where James Brooks is the one blocking for Icky Woods.
Yeah, Icky had that big year, right?
Yeah, he ran for, I think, 1,066 yards. But the thing about the 1,066 yards, he didn't really play until week 4 against Cleveland, which was the first time he ever did the Icky Shuffle.
So he really had an Ezekiel Elliott type of season in a shortened season.
Dude, Ezekiel Elliott doesn't make a pimple on Icky Woods' ass. Because you know why? Because Icky Woods had a signature win in the AFC Championship game. Icky Woods played in the Super Bowl. And it still blows my mind to this day. And I've interviewed Sam Weiss a couple times, and I've talked to him a bunch of times. I've never had the balls to bring it up. But I still don't know why the Bengals, who were predominantly a running team, especially at the end of that season and in the playoffs, didn't just run the ball. Because Icky Woods, in the first half, ran the ball 16 times for like 72 yards and didn't run it again. I mean, and it made no sense. And the big loss there was Stanley Wilson with the cocaine the night before. Because every Bengal that you talk to, Stanley Wilson's why they lost the game. Because that was a game, when you watch it, Joe Robbie Stadium The turf was horrible for that game. I remember George Toma was always the guy in charge of the grounds crew for the Super Bowls, and they brought in turf and put the turf in like a week or two before the game, and it hadn't taken root. You couldn't cut on the turf. I mean, and it's why Steve Wallace, first drive for the 49ers, tears his knee up, and it's why Tim Crumry on the second Niners drive breaks his leg. Because when you watch, the foot would get caught, it would slip out, and they would get hurt. And James Brooks was a great running back, but James Brooks couldn't cut on that. Roger Craig couldn't cut on that. Stanley Wilson was a north-south runner who didn't really cut a whole hell of a lot, and it could have made a huge difference if you would have had Stanley Wilson in that game. But the field conditions in that game were absolutely atrocious, as bad as any Super Bowl's ever had.
Yeah, well, now field conditions don't matter in the NFL.
No, because it's all fake turf. Unless you're in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, for some reason, no matter what they do, their stuff's always flying up. I think they do that on purpose. So Adam Vinatieri will kick a ball with the laces and miss. But, all right. Anything else you want to talk about today, Anthony?
No, I think we just about covered it all.
We covered everything from 1987 and now. All right, guys. Anthony, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face Off. You can also find my show on The Grueling Truth. Mike posted it on time last night, so go check it out. I react to all of the games from last week from a storyline and a fantasy football point of view, and we will be releasing a fantasy football waiver wire show tomorrow.
So you know, Anthony, Mike's not always just sitting in front of his computer waiting for Anthony to send him to FF Face-Off. And sometimes I'll be gone. So it's like if you do a show tonight, I'll be at the Xavier game covering that at 7 o'clock. So from like 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight, I'm incognito or incommunicable or whatever. That's a disease, isn't it? But you can send the stuff to Jeremiah Pricer, who you can follow if you like boxing at TGTN Boxing. You can follow The Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. Me and Anthony will be back with Samuel Teets tomorrow and his quarterback power rankings, so make sure you check us out then.
And I'm sure he's going to put Lamar Jackson number one.
Deshaun Watson is the best in the world, outside of Russell Wilson. But we will have that discussion tomorrow. Hopefully Dak Prescott's down around 27th, where he should be, because he lost to Sam Darnold and the freaking Jets. And the only way you can overcome that is to win 4 straight Super Bowls. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. For Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.